Okay, so welcome back. So what we're going to look at is how to resample this. So I've got version 4.26 open here. So I'll just go back to the other version that we had here. So basically what you want to do is go back here to your sculpting sort of mode. You're going to manage. And what we want to do is you'll see this is probably at 15 with one section there. So I'll just actually resample that and show you what most people would have started with. So at the moment we've got this really heavy tessellation there, and when we look around and we walk around, it's really obvious that it tessellates, but also like these bricks are a little bit too small. So what we're doing is basically increasing or decreasing the size of the resolution, but also more importantly making sure this sort of is resized correctly. So the way we do that again is we have our landscape selected, we make sure we're in landscape mode, we go to manage, and we go here to 15 quads back to 7 quads. Now it's very important that we change this from expand, because expand will actually change the size of this, and we instead go to resample, because that will keep this there, but will allow us to have that resampled there and everything. Now, the, I guess, downside to this is that it does make this a little bit more sort of pointy in some cases and everything. So the best practice, I guess, is to make sure that when you go into there, you change the resolution before you come into it. But it's kind of a thing that you've got to sort of get a feel for before you can sort of do that. So you may decide to keep the other resolution or change it, but that's that there. So the other thing we want to change is to stop it from looking so plasticky. So what I mean by that is that here we can sort of see the light bouncing off of it, and it looks like it's all very flat, even though this is a cobblestone pathway. So to do that, we're going to actually go back to our material and edit it, and we're going to do exactly what we did here for this, just down here. So in fact, I'm actually going to grab this, go Control C, click down here and press Control V. So we're actually going to plug this into the normal, and we're going to keep all these names so that it's all consistent across the board, and that's going to be important. So go to Content, we'll go to Starter Content, Textures, and we don't actually have to go here, we could have just searched this, but if we search for grass again, we'll notice that it actually has a normal map. So a normal map is this purple map, and it basically changes the way that light bounces off of it. And it does that by changing the angle that light bounces off of it, or what it's otherwise referred to as its normal. So I'm just going to left click and plug this into here, and then we're going to do that same thing to the others, including a cobblestone. It's very important when you're doing this that you make sure that if you have a texture in here that it does have a corresponding normal. That's why I picked these ones, because I knew they would. There's other sort of materials you can have on here, or other maps like metallic and specular and roughness, some of which will have it, but I don't think grass actually has one. So you're just going to be careful of that when you're sort of putting these ones in there. So anyway, with that all there, I then click save. And now if you watch here in the background of the 3D viewport, we should see a noticeable change with the cobblestone. And in fact, all the different textures that are in here now. So we're just going to wait for a bit. It's going to take a bit of time to think about this. But once it's done doing that, we should notice a significant difference in the way in which light bounces off of that cobblestone. And it's basically a way in which a lot of video games and films, for that matter, with their 3D graphics, will add detail without adding polygons. So yeah, there you can see it. And you can see it's a lot more realistic now, the way the light bounces off of it. So yeah, so that just adds to the realism there. Still thinking about some of these other materials which also had normal maps on them and everything. But now if we press play, we walk around this environment here, we can see, yep, that looks a lot more sort of realistic. So again, I've still got to paint this a little bit and get it looking a little bit more sort of realistic and everything, but that's all we just wanted to sort of have there. So we can change the amount of shininess it has as well, because at the moment it's still looking very shiny, but I just wanted to get people to this point in that sort of terrain editing there. When we come back, we'll start looking at, okay, how can we paint in some grass that sort of sticks through these bricks here and everything. And maybe edit it a little bit more. But just as a quick thing, just as before we're about to go on break, so we might as well do this. If you go here to build, and you go to build lighting, that's what this red layer is up here, and that's why we're getting these sort of grid lines across here. So anytime we change it, paint it, sculpt it, it will unfortunately come back with that grid. It's really unavoidable, it's just the way that it, Unreal kind of renders its lighting. But if you want to know why that's there and how to get rid of it, that's generally how you do that. So I'm going to leave that to keep going. It's almost finished now, so you should see it disappear in just a second. And once that red part there disappears, that should be good. That should take us to lunch, and then when we come back, we'll have a look at the foliage tool, and so we can paint in some actual sort of 3D details.
Have you stopped recording, Mr. Ben?
Not yet. I just wanted to wait for this thing to go through. It doesn't look like it's going to. It's a shame. I just wanted to show this grid disappearing so that it can prove a point of that doing that. But I reckon that's going to be a good way to start up the next video. So see you again in just a minute.